since all year, yeah.
Yeah, so, anyway, all right, well, I just want to tell you that. I could tell the tone, I could tell the tone. I know.
You ever had any meeting like that?
I had surgery on my student.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Who did that?
I don't know, surgeon up here at home. I was let anybody work on it, but I couldn't get in.
What was wrong with it?
It had torn meniscus.
It's not, they're not treating it like a house, they're treating it like a,
Hopefully that went well.
I mean, it looks
I
like
heard
a
other
house,
people
but,
say
I
they
mean, you
had
have to
different
value
ones.
it
Yeah, I had it done in February.
of something that looks similar to square
It
footage.
never got better. In
That's all.
July, I couldn't even stand.
Anyway, well, we're gonna start
start
our work session here, so.
So I went back in, and they said, oh, well, either you retore it or they just didn't get the first flashes in October. They redid it.
Oh,
And then the next day it was like a miracle.
Oh, no, mine feels so much better. I've been here for 3 weeks or so, I had to walk.
Yeah. Did you give them the prescription yet?
No, he was just.
Not yet.
Other just got here and he's acting.
Okay, so we're at a work session right now, so we can't make any decisions.
Well, no, I'm just gonna give you a heads up.
Yeah, give me a heads up, or give us a heads up of what's going on.
We have an issue on the sewer drain on the 4th floor. 2 stools that go back to back and go into the closet. And we fixed one thing, we thought we were gonna fix it, because it quit. And then later that day, it just started boiling over on top of the sewer pipe. Brian came up this morning, and he was routing it out with the small one, and his buddy put down a new place on it. We went and got the bigger one, and it was rolling pretty good, and that time Aaron B told me there's earth water coming through the ceiling. So we looked up in the ceiling as far as we can, just like hit it. Now we gotta go pretty much the length of the small court and replace all of that. And the
And
process.
that's all cast, right?
Yep. And in the process, it ruined all the freaking tiles and probably
I mean, bench has water on it, there's a set of books that has water on it. It smells lovely on the 3rd floor.
And I gotta go.
So, what's our, what kind of insurance coverage can we get on something like that?
He's gotta give me some bids.
Are we going to replace the copper or the cast with plastic?
Probably.
And we're gonna go from, and this is kind of one of those catastrophic failures that we've been talking about. So we're gonna go from the 4th floor and go where? How far?
To the end of the south end of the small court. Because I think from there it goes straight down. As far as we can tell. Until I gotta go get me an angle grinder and cut the ceiling part out so we can see better.
Are we going to, once we get over to the south part, are we going to take a camera and shove down there and see what it looks like the rest of the way down?
Probably look at that.
I mean, that would be my recommendation, shove a camera down there and see what it looks like the rest of the way down there before we go to the time and expense of replacing 2 there, and it's like, oh, well, guess what, 2 months, it's gonna start doing the same thing farther on down the line.
And if we do that, then we're gonna have to tear out that wall. To get to it. I'll find out more when I get it. I'm gonna come up with some hard work on it.
Okay.
With somebody to-
Yeah, take a look and see what you can find out. Like I said, my recommendation first of all would be to get it sectioned out far enough to where you can show a camera down there and get a good look at what's going on further down the line.
I totally agree.
You ready to go yet?
Yes,
Okay.
you said it earlier today.
We're not taking Chrissy, right?
No. Well, she might.
I did try.
You might drive.
Alright, yeah, just shoot me a text tomorrow, let me know what you find, and
Okay.
we'll go from there.
If I can get that tore out, then Brian said he can come up, get it back together. If everything was fine down the seat for the wall.
Alright,
now we went and got the wall out and patched it somehow, because it's the same as this.
Plaster.
Among the popular things, rather trying to get the ceiling out that way.
Okay.
All right, just giving you a heads
All
up.
right, thanks, guys, appreciate it. What's that? No.
Page was done.
I'm just waiting on
That's
time
right.
to go. Yeah,
What page?
I'm just reading some of the comments.
Hi, ladies.
Howdy,
Where do you want to start?
right there.
Right here, perfect.
You guys want to be able to, yeah, those-
Yeah, look,
Oh, we can put it on the screen?
I can, but we need to search something, I can search that document. Pull it up.
Thank you.
Did you want to see it in one of these?
I want to dive into this.
That's
She has a free one.
JACO. You're looking for a network to hook up for internet?
Well, the cable to hook into it.
Oh,
I might have been there. Yeah.
you're talking about that one that can be.
Here's the, just up yonder.
I think she's got one too, if she gets it.
Yeah, she's got one.
Oh, look at
That goes,
She has to hook up into the.
Yeah,
get
no,
into the.
she has that.
She just needs to be able to hook into the internet because she has to be on the server to access her documents on the server. What she's trying to get is a server thing. Sorry.
I thought she just physically couldn't.
Oh, no.
Plug it in.
You know, there's a HDMI cord in there.
Connection. This is my phone.
I feel like that's probably the one we used when we had a meeting down here.
I don't remember. I think there's only one down there.
That one?
Yeah, I unhooked it from something.
Just don't call me. So did you all have specific somewhere to start? Like, what did you want to start on?
I think that probably the hot topic right now would be the portable building things.
Okay.
So that'd probably be the easiest and best place to jump in, and we'll go from there.
There isn't, you guys, you all have looked at the zoning regs and you didn't find anything in those areas about portable.
Why don't you, give us a page and we'll go there.
Well, there isn't a page.
There isn't other than mobile home, right? That's kind of what I gathered, what I kind of skimmed through and looked at. But
There is.
So, searching portable, there's one and it's transportable structures larger than 320 square feet, which that's referring to mobile homes.
So, is it fair to say that a shipping container, any of those types of things, if I build a camp loafing shed that's 36 feet wide and 12 feet deep, that's on wooden skids so I can move it around, those are all portable structures, correct?
Defined as portable, yeah.
Defined as portable. So we don't have anything currently that defines portable.
Right. So there is a 3-part fixture test in the personal property guide that helps us determine if something is portable or not for personal property
Okay.
purposes. So
why does it even have to be, if we didn't do anything with it and we just said if it's portable, it's, and it's ag related, to me, again, it's like, you buy a UTV And it's on the owner's responsibility to come out and get an exemption. Correct?
Right.
So if it's portable in any way, shape, or form, I mean, and portable, I suppose you'd have to have some sort of definition, because you can say you could unbolt a building from its foundation and pick it up and make it portable. But I think for most people, they get it like the calf shed that we dealt with today. If those are going to be ag-related and exempt, they just need to come up, they need to get them exempt.
It wouldn't be from our office, there isn't.
Correct.
Yeah, because there isn't any definitions for exempt ag buildings. So the structure thing is a little more complicated, because it is a structure and not farm machinery or equipment.
I get that.
Yeah.
So how do we make it simple? How do we make it so that it's a simpler process, and if it's ag related?
So simple process would be like everything would just need a permit, so we can determine its use, where it's gonna go, if it is portable, and then we deal with that, however we're gonna deal with it, right? And then if it's in a flood hazard zone.
So, again, the whole purpose behind, and we talked about this morning, one of the reasons for having a building permit on any structure is so if somebody shouldn't build in a floodplain, because if they do, you're not supposed to do that. We have one situation where it's probably going to have to be torn down because it was built in floodplain. But the reason, again, just explain again why we have that in our regulation and how it affects people who live in the county.
You touch on setbacks and things like that too. That's a key part of it right
Having a
there.
building permit, yeah, you make sure that you're not within 40 foot of another person's property.
Yeah. So setbacks, let's just start with setbacks. So setbacks are important because each zoning district has their own setbacks.
Okay.
So whether that's A1, rural resident, whatever, there are specific setbacks. And if that use may be ag when they start off, and agricultural in some zoning districts would require a special use permit.
Sure, like feedlot.
Yeah, well, that and if it's a rural residential or a residential zoning district, not all agricultural stuff is just allowed without some sort of special use or whatever. So that would need to be determined too, like if their zoning district allows for that. If it does start off as ag and then they split that parcel with the ag buildings on it and they split off 3 acres in the buildings and they don't meet their setbacks on that structure that is not being used for ag purposes, then there would be some non-compliance there too. So it's setbacks and use would need to be determined, which would require a permit. So the ag building and just being exempt from setbacks too could be problematic.
Sure.
Building in the floodplain, building a portable anything in the floodplain is not really a thing because everything in the floodplain, if it can go in the floodplain, needs to be anchored and at a foot above base flood elevation.
So why
Or exempt from that by getting a variance, but variances have to be done prior to, and there would have to be certain requirements.
So why do we even worry about whether somebody wants to build in floodplain or not? What agency are we associated with that we have to have?
FEMA and the Division of Water Resources. So Division of Water Resources would issue the fill permit to bring it up to base flood elevation or a foot above. And then FEMA administers the flood insurance.
Because we're part of that organization or we follow their guidelines, that in our zoning, that allows people who build in this community to be able to get flood insurance. If we were not part of that, they would not be able to get flood insurance, correct?
Right. And if they had a federally backed loan and needed flood insurance, and they weren't able to get that, then they couldn't get that federally backed loan.
I think that pretty much explains it right there.
Okay.
Why
So-
we're asking to do this.
So the whole building permit thing, it's really a protection for those who are building. But it's also a way for us to make sure that all structures that are permanent are put on the tax roll, so that everybody pays an equal share, because we all want to carry that burden. We shouldn't, I guess, we shouldn't want just a few people carrying that, and if you can get away with it, you can get away with it. That's just not the way a society works together. So, the requirement, what we have in the building or the codes now are that 350 square feet requires a building permit.
That's not anywhere here.
Okay.
And that's the challenge.
Okay. So if it's not in there, how do we enforce it?
We can't.
Okay. So if we want a minimum, then it needs to be written and then we need to incorporate it into this. So I guess I would challenge the other commissioners, what are your thoughts? I'm thinking 600-700 square feet, somewhere in that range. If it's 601 and 600 is the number, it requires a building permit. If it's less than that,
Let me pose this question too.
okay?
How do we make sure people aren't putting portable buildings in the floodplain?
That's a great question. Part of me really doesn't care.
I was just saying,
If my neighbor wants to go down there and he wants to set a brand new shipping container at the bottom of the creek, and the next time we get a toad strangler and it floats downriver, he's gonna be liable for it, not me.
Except that if we get audited and
Yeah.
if we get audited and we're suspended from the NFIP,
Then it does affect people.
then it does affect people.
So
So technically, if they're in,
even if it's a portable building.
yes, you can't have a portable building in the floodplain, it has to be anchored. So it doesn't float away and cause damage to other properties. I mean, that may be a low value item, but if it's causing damage to other properties.
we don't have anybody that's gonna inspect it right now. I mean, I can tell you that I own a structure there, and it's in the floodplain, and I answer, does somebody go out and inspect that? Do we have somebody that will go out and
If
inspect
we
it?
get building permits, then we're gonna go out and we're gonna to look at that. If we're issuing building permits, well, we're not gonna issue a building permit unless they meet the requirements for the floodplain. They can build in the floodplain, they just can't be portable. They have to be built up to elevation or meet the floodproofing requirements or so on.
You're doing a great job. I'm playing the devil's advocate here.
That's okay.
And so Nemaha County is zoned. How do they deal with situations like this? Are they
I
part
have
of
no idea.
You don't have any idea
I
what
have
they're.
no idea. So I don't know if they're part of the NFIP.
Right.
I don't know that.
One of the things that you brought up, and here you were just saying, what if somebody puts a shipping container in a floodplain? Tow strength comes along and floats your storage container away. I believe what Kate's trying to say is that they're liable for damage it, right?
100%.
Okay,
Sure.
so it goes down, hits one of our bridges and wipes it out.
Yeah.
We don't have any insurance, what do we do then?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you handle that?
Right, and I get the result of not doing it. My question is, how do we define? I mean, how nitpicky do we boil in on this? Because you could write 2 pages on what is considered a, shipping container, building that, all that kind of stuff. How do we make it simpler so that people understand that they can't put stuff in the floodplain, and if they do, they have to follow the requirements?
It would just be easier, straightforward, if people would just get a permit for anything.
Okay.
Whether they're charged for it or not, that will allow us to look at where they're gonna put it. And they'll
You
sign
would-
off on, this is where we're putting it.
Right, no, and I get it, it would allow you to be able to look at it and go, do you realize this, do you realize that? Things that most of the general public don't realize.
Right.
Well, most people don't want to get a building permit.
And you know how much time it would take you to go out and look at all these little buildings that are just,
We do go out and look at all the permits, like in the
I know, but
fall.
I mean the ones that don't have permits.
We're doing that right now.
I
It's happening right now, so.
And some of them would require the building permit.
Most of them.
No, for sure, I get that. So you're saying that the easiest way is to require any structure that's 600, if we chose 600, that's 601 square feet, whether fixed or portable, requires a building permit.
Any structure, period.
See, they're saying any structure, period, no
Define
matter what size
structure.
it is.
Define structure.
Anything you're putting on the property.
So if somebody was to put in 620 square foot or 600 square foot portable building, how are we gonna define it as one portable? What makes that portable? A 20 by 30 building as, how are you gonna define that as portable? And then, okay, if they decide to put that in the floodplain and we're not requiring permits for these, and it's in a floodplain or it's on a neighbor's property, let's say, that happens too.
It does.
Which that's a civil matter, that's between neighbors if that happens.
Right.
How do we-
So, okay,
how do
so we're gonna touch on another point here too. If we define a portable building as, we're gonna say X amount of square feet, does not have to require a permit, okay? So, as we heard this morning, the building they were talking about, they're gonna load up, move to another farm, go on down the road. So how do we, isn't there statutes and rules in place right now for what you can move down the road, how big? So do we have to look at that too? I mean, see where I'm going with that?
I don't think so.
So KDOT requirement, I think, is 8 foot 6 inches or 8.6 feet, before you need to get a special permit to move
Right?
it.
Because didn't we just have that with something that came through?
Yeah, they were bringing a mobile home through.
That's the one that Scott was talking about? Or who? Yeah. So see where I'm going with that? I mean,
No.
so,
I don't. I mean, I do, but I don't. I mean, you're talking about if somebody's buying a structure from somebody, even these, you see the little log cabin things, they're bringing those in. They all meet the width requirement to haul down the road. I mean, does that require a building permit? Sure. If it's gonna go on a property and it's gonna have value. So I think what you're saying is having the building permit, but I have a hard time with any structure. Define any structure.
All right, let me give you another example of why just building permits in general or zoning compliance applications are important. You may have a 0.6 acre parcel with a house on it, and when that parcel got created, the highway goes through, and it looks like the house is over into the right of way. We have this happen. That structure can have an interior improvement, but it cannot have any alterations like an addition or a porch or a deck or a slab or anything that,
Makes its footprint bigger.
right, because one, it's non-conforming, that parcel is non-conforming, but then that puts it into non-compliance because they're not meeting their setbacks. If you
Right.
If you alter that structure, that alteration means that it has to come up to county standards. And the current county standards would require that 40-foot front yard setback, 15, 40-foot back. So there are issues there too. So it's not necessarily just about bringing a building in, it's about altering buildings and altering uses as well. So there's a lot, it's not just
Yeah. No,
these portable buildings.
Linda, thoughts?
I think we're getting deep.
And
There's a lot.
I think that a little bit of the, well, no, a lot of the problem is the general public is not educated on this. I sat here and told you, I was not educated on this. I was able to measure my building this much smaller, but what's the footprint, 350 feet, so I feel better about that. But I had no idea that I needed a building permit to bring in a move-in from out there on the highway and move it to the house. Had no idea. And I don't believe that a lot of people understand that, and a lot of people realize that. So I think part of our job here is to educate everybody that we need, this is how this is handled. We're a zone county. Don't look at Nemaha, don't look at Atchison, I don't know about Brown, I'm not sure about them. Don't look at them, look at Jackson County. Jackson County is zoned. Here's what we need to do to be able to function and know where things are so we don't put ourselves afoul of FEMA or NFIP, so that we don't harm our neighbors. Because that's not what we want to do. We're trying to be fair to everybody. And I think that the first big part that we need to do is relook at these regulations that we've got right now, put something in there about portable buildings so that we can try to give a good definition of what it is, what we're looking for, and then we need to start educating the public, and I think really need to go through these and look hard at them, just go section by section and see where we're going. Because, as Keith was saying this morning, there was a deal in there about signs, for sale signs, correct? Keith?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I looked it up then, and in one place it says, yeah, you do this, and one place it says you gotta have a permit, and the next place it says, no, you don't. So I really think that we need to look at all of that and look hard at it from the front to the back. But the big issue that we're dealing with right now is these portable buildings. I've looked up, I'm sitting here listening to you and looking, and there's really nothing in there in the state regulations about portable buildings. They define ag buildings, okay? But there is nothing in there about that. So, because there's nothing in the statutes, that leaves it up to us to define and put it into our rules for the county what we think it needs to be.
Have you talked to any counties that have zoning about portable
I
buildings?
talked to Shawnee County, and they put them on the real estate, either under the agricultural 25% assessment rate or the 11.5%, which is
resident.
yeah, which is better than the 30% other category that it would go under in personal property.
Do they have a size too, what they call portable?
No, because it's, and I can check again, maybe with your zoning office, maybe there's a difference in the zoning versus the appraisal. But I have to check with them on size requirements.
Okay. Like I said, I think that the first thing we need to do is to get our definitions and everything straightened out as far as what we're looking at. I think that we need to state in there why we're doing this, the reasoning behind it, and I think that might appease a lot of people because, when we're sitting here discussing this, I had no idea about NFPA and the floodplains and NFIP and all that good stuff. I had no clue.
But I think that goes back to why they but believe that the need for a building permit allows that office to explain that to the general individual, whoever's coming in for that building permit. You walk in, you say, look, I don't know, I'm doing this, do I need a building permit? Okay, describe it. Now they walk through it, okay, yeah, you do, is it aggravated? Then they walk them through that. And then, you start talking about location. I don't know how you would ever educate, you can't force somebody to pick this up and read it.
Right.
And for even us, I mean, just sit here and read through this, some of it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right.
And so I think having the building permit is an important piece to this because it gets them either on the phone with your office so that you can walk people through how it will adversely affect them or how you can help in the process and get them through this so that it is a good experience, so that they are, meeting the criteria, so that they don't wake up one morning and have a neighbor go, well, you're 22 feet inside the bounds. Now I'm going to sue you. You got to move it, or whatever. So I think that piece is good. Is it a little bit of a nuisance? I suppose it is. But really, a lot of this can be solved by a phone call.
Yeah.
If I call up and I say, I just bought a 14-foot wide by 60-foot long hog shed that's portable, I'm having it delivered, do I need a building permit? It's going to be moved on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. You're going to say,
At this point,
I need a building permit.
you need a building permit.
What purpose is that building permit? If I tell you that it's a hog shed,
Well, I'm gonna look up their property, see if they have any floodplain on their property, right? That's the first thing that we do. And there again, the use. Okay, say for instance, ag trailers. It's a very common thing for people to just come in and say, I have an ag trailer.
sure,
And then we're just supposed to
believe everybody.
okay, it's exempt, right?
That's-
We have found some that would not qualify as that ag exempt. Per state, they give us guidelines on,
definition.
and pictures of what can be exempt and what's not. We don't really have that guidance on anything but maybe ATVs, UTVs, and trailers. Okay, so if somebody comes in and says this is exempt, kind of thing, then we would need a picture of it. So with the process of the permit, if they have plans for it, that would be good. If they have an estimate for it, that would be good. It helps us determine the use. If we look at the property and it's 3 acres, is that agricultural? They don't really seem to have any other agricultural things going on. Is that an ag building? Or is it just a residential shed? So the use, determining the use and looking at the property also helps with that.
Okay.
So I don't know if that
That helps, yeah, that helps. But again, so I think one piece is that things are required to have a building permit. And then from there, or at least ask the question, does this need a building permit? I still find it hard to believe that, a 10-foot by 20-foot patio that's connected to my house that's plowing the ground needs a building permit. But hey, if that's what is required, then okay. But let's hit some things, let's start narrowing in on some things like square footage. Where do we want that square footage to be? We don't have a definition of that in this, so do we want to pick a square footage? And then the whole, if it's portable, and they can prove that it's portable, then okay. How do we approach those buildings?
you want square footage to be a determining factor on whether they call us to see if,
I think so. I mean,
What they call and see if they need a building permit?
yeah. I mean,
But then that kind of defeats the whole purpose of looking at, is it in the floodplain, or the setbacks good, so on and so forth, right? I mean, normal building, the setbacks really are gonna be kind of a moot point, but the floodplain's the bigger one. The setback is if you say, oh, you can't put it here, you have to do it 10 feet in. Okay, I'll let the tractor off it, move it 10 feet in. But if it's in a floodplain, that's when the determining factor comes into play there. So, I think that if you want to go with the size, fine. But there still needs to be the conversation with your office. Where are you going to locate it at? Let me take a look, see if it's in a floodplain or not. That conversation is a very important piece and a very important key.
And I'm okay with that. If you're calling in and saying, okay, it's 600 square feet, here's where I'm going to put it, and you say, okay, you're good there, you're not in a floodplain, you're not encroaching on somebody's building or easement, not easement, but 40 foot, within 40 foot of somebody else's property, okay, then you would say, okay, no building permit is required for that. Whatever that number is, you know.
Here's
Okay.
it's trying to find a simple solution for this, and I don't see that there really is one. So, would we not want documentation of that? Because you can tell people a whole lot of things on the phone,
Sure.
and it'll get flipped around or miscommunicated or whatever the case may be. And I don't know.
Okay. Sometimes making things simpler is harder.
It's hard.
And that's why we have
Yeah.
a book that is this thick, because you come across something that's happened and you try and cover for that. So that's why it's so huge. Say about this one. Not picking it up in personal property. How do you do that too on someone just self-determines that this is a portable building? And I told you about the building that was like 42 by 30. I mean, this building was huge. And because it was built on pipe or something, because it was built in the ground on pipe, that building had never moved. That building was never going to move.
Right.
Because of the way that he built it on skids, that he defined it as portable. Okay, so is that fair to the neighbor that builds his same size building? That may affect the value of the one that's built on skids, right? Because it's probably not built to the same standards as the other one, but that they get a tax break because they built it on skids or pipe. I mean, in that case, it would have to go on his personal property. And valuing that through Orion, our system, in the real estate side, and then taking it off each year. So in a case like that, it's put it on, then take it off, just to get that value each year. It's not something that would stay on, because then it would value it as real estate. So, I don't know, that's complicated too, on the valuing part of it. So, I'm not sure about the size thing. I mean, as far as getting a building permit, I mean, it seems like there's always something that's gonna prevent that from really making sense.
Well, like I say, as far as getting a building permit, the first conversation that needs to be had is with your office.
Right.
Okay, we can limit the size or however you're going to put it on a building for having to get a building permit. But we still need to know where it's going, where you're gonna put it on your property, because we have to check the setbacks, and we have to check if it's in the floodplain. That's just plain, pure, and simple as far as I can see. That's kind of a no-brainer. That's not a complicated thing. But there again, we need to educate the general public, myself included, that this is how this needs to be handled.
How do you propose to educate?
And that's one of the things we need to try to figure out too, is how do we educate them on that? I mean, you come into the county and on all the highways, it says Jackson County is zone, building permit required.
I mean, we can send out a thing each year.
You can, but I mean, people throw stuff like that away. I mean, we live in an age where we have the greatest technology we've ever seen. You can simply get on that laptop and you can pull up this entire book in about 4 clicks. At some point, people gotta take care of themselves and go, okay, I need to get on there and check before I build. I mean, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him freaking drink.
True.
I mean,
But it's our responsibility to at least try.
Well, I think we have tried by putting it in the PDF and putting it on the county website.
I understand that, but I'm saying I think it's our responsibility to try to educate the public as to, this is what we need to have happen, and this is why we need to have it happen.
Okay. Again, how do you do that?
That's the key. How do we do that? That's what we're gonna have to try to
I
put
think we
together.
keep coming back. I think we keep coming back to making contact with your appraiser's office when it comes to any kind of construction, so that they can be the ones to educate.
That would be the first thing.
And then,
Yeah.
but I think we've got to sell some customer service when it comes to that. And being able to kind of read between the lines when somebody's asking questions, okay, are you aware of this, and do you know that you can do this? Or, because we've had the conversation you and I have multiple times about the 3-acre thing. But in reading this, all right, I got one for you. How many of you know that you can currently, right now, you could take 3 acres off your property and sell it to your child, and you can do that
If you have 40 acres.
if you have 40 acres? Did you know you could do
I
that?
believe it did, yes, I did know that.
I didn't. You ever heard of that? Okay.
But you can only do the 1 3-acre, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, 1
But
3-acre.
It depends on the size, it depends on the size of the original parcel.
Yeah.
Well,
and there-
if your original parcel was 40 acres, and you can only do
Yeah,
one thing.
The original parcel from the time the regulations,
Oh, not that you own the 40.
right, so there are some 60-acre parcels out there that cannot be split again because there are so many little parcels that were split off the original parcel.
Yeah,
And
That
there's
would
where
not-
it becomes
yeah.
so
Yeah, there's where it
mind-blowing, confusing,
mind-boggling.
and you go, are you, this
Right.
just doesn't make sense.
Right.
I mean,
It's the importance of calling our office so we can say, yeah.
Most people don't call and ask us what they can do.
okay,
with
so
the
let's
parcel.
dig deeper on this. Why is it important to only have one of those on the 40 acres? I can do math, you can put 11 of them on 40 acres.
To keep it rural.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a
the-
comprehensive
It's
plan.
the
That meets the comprehensive plan, that's where I was
The
going.
comprehensive
When
plan
was that
was to
written?
maintain the
And I'm
agricultural.
not
It was
directing
just
this, you
renewed last year.
it was renewed, but it wasn't redone.
They redid some parts to it.
Idea of it. I mean, basically, it was done 25 years ago by 30 people, and 6 of those were from the tribe when they didn't have zoning and planning down there, so we included them in on this. But have things changed in 30 years? Probably so. Again, just to that one little thing, the 3 acres, and it can be, there are so many different variables that you can, but you can't, but you maybe could, depending on the, you know where I'm going, and you guys didn't do this, so I'm not upset with you guys, I'm not upset with anybody. It just seems so, where are you at?
There's a lot there's a lot of little pieces in here, and then some piece in the back refers to something in the front of the book. I mean,
Correct.
If you were making zoning, then you just end up with whatever, like you end up with
Okay,
windows like Nemaha. I mean,
But-
that's where you're,
Yeah.
but how does Nemaha do it? I mean,
They
I just
well,
drove through there the
they
other
go
day.
in. I think, I don't know how the winds, I don't know how that happened. I think that was
No, I mean, just
Special
general
use.
building. Do
they
they?
just pick them up.
they just pick them up as they go. So they have their 6-year rotation. So if by chance somebody from the appraiser's office or somebody calls in and says, hey, somebody built a new house, then they're gonna go out and pick that. They're gonna value that house, they're gonna assess that house and make some same pickup.
Do they do Eagleview, or what do they do? They have enough people in their office that they can go out?
They don't have Eagleview.
So they just,
There's the ag flyover, they get that thing in the ag flyover, which you can
Which
see.
is every like 2 years.
Okay.
Not high resolution, so they can't use it for valuing purposes. They can use it for reference, but they can't
okay,
use it in the value process.
value process, okay.
It has to be a 6-inch resolution or less to use that value process.
I just, there is just so much to it.
I think everyone that has ever looked for those regulations agrees that it could be better, right? But you're also looking at, what, 10,000 plus to have zoning regulations done.
That's what I was about to say. Often, because these people came in and did this and stuff.
So the original, he is no longer.
He's no longer, okay, that's why.
So we've had others reach out to us, and it is 10,000 or more, depending on how detailed they need to get. So, one, they could do a review, I think for 6,000, somewhere in that ballpark, to do a review on it.
What does the review guarantee?
They can point out this is a problem, or this could be better.
That we already know that we're trying to
Right.
work on, yeah,
Right.
okay, all right.
But did they make suggestions on how you can make it?
And you pay more for the suggestions.
That's just like the base price.
When zoning planning went over, planning board went over the comprehensive plan, how deep did they dig into? Was that the time when they decided not to go with the smaller parcels? Is that was then,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah, last
Okay,
year.
Did they have one or two?
And it works
They had one work session that I know of. I'm trying to think if they had more than that. But there have been multiple work sessions since then, so I don't remember exactly.
I mean, I'm just kind of, I see that we have a section in here on threatened or endangered species known or likely to occur in Jackson County.
Comprehensive plan.
Yes. The Eskimo curlew, the Pneumonius borealis, endangered, formerly a regular spring transient, has not been recorded in Kansas since 1902, but a few birds still may migrate through Kansas. Now,
I think if they didn't know.
I mean, come on. That kind of stuff, if they're here, great, but why is that included in our comprehensive plan? Hasn't been recorded in Kansas since 1902.
Well, that's the old, there are portions of the comprehensive plan, right, that they didn't like, hey, let's really dig into this endangered species thing.
I understand it, but why would we put it there in the first place, for heaven's sakes? That's the key
I don't
right
think
there.
that you want a lot of development in an endangered species area.
1902. That's my point right there.
So somebody with the county can put it in there.
I mean, I can understand, I've heard a lot of these looping crane, the white-faced ibis, I've heard of that. But, or the red-bellied snake. But,
Yeah.
there's some of this stuff that's just kind of laughable that is in our comprehensive plan. I would be more in favor and think we would be more in line trying to figure out what we're going to do with 3-acre plots, and set it up certain portions of the county if we think that needs to be done. Infrastructure, things like that, rather than focusing on something from 1902 that hasn't been seen here since.
So they've got a work session on the 19th that they're going to be going over the comprehensive plan.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many work sessions they'll do on that, but
I mean, to me, that I can understand that being in there to a certain extent, but we need to focus more on what actually helps us in this county rather than something that hadn't been seen since 1902. And I know I keep saying that, but it's just.
So that's the planning board that's gonna do that? Over. How often do they do that?
once a year.
Once a year. So, can we get their opinions on the zoning regulations? Planning board? Like these things,
You can get their opinion.
that's why it can't just be an opinion.
I mean,
It's a lot to throw at somebody, but I don't know.
Can I ask a practical question? Would I need a building permit for a cat how far down?
Since this is a work session, we're not taking any public comment. Just talk to you after the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
are there any things that you guys see on a daily basis that you look through these and you deal with these that you would say to yourself, what if we made this change? It would make it better for the public, it would make it a simpler process. Do you see those things?
I felt like asking for a building permit so we can determine the use and the size, because just because somebody says they're putting up a 10 by 10 doesn't mean that's what it ends up being. I mean, it's not always the case, so.
There's the accountability that when we go out there, that it is a 10 by 10. Because it does happen that they do change the size, which it's fine. They may change their mind and put a lead to on it, or,
So
okay, that happens.
it'd be fair to say that I think we all agree that the best way to educate the public is by having the public start with the agency that's set up and paid for with their tax dollars to ask the questions or at least begin the conversation so that they can know what they can and
Yes.
Because it's easier for us to navigate this book than it is for
can't. I agree.
just anyone else, because we get into it. And it's always if we don't have the answer for them on the phone, I always tell them, I'll look into it and I'll give you a call back. And I always try and call people back within that day or the next day, whenever I have that answer.
Because the 350 feet, again, is not in here.
It's not in there.
Okay, so let's pick a number that makes sense, that at least people can start with. I mean, is it truly 350 foot? Is it 400? 4 by 10? That they say that we put in here that says that is a trigger. And if somebody's got the ability and takes the time to go in here and they go, oh, my building's 400 square feet, I need a building permit. So now I got to call. Because right now, we're just saying it's
It's
300
a 12 by
feet.
12, it's 144 square feet. And they put it in on their neighbor's property line, or on their neighbor's property line. Or they put it in the floodplain, and they,
But who
portable and
takes
it's not-
350 square feet?
Huh?
Who takes 350?
We got somebody in our office.
But
Yeah, I mean, that's just what it is, there's not.
that's what it.
So it can be challenged, I
Yeah.
mean, anybody can challenge.
Sure.
right, so
That's what I'm
that may be the confusion, because it used to be 250 square feet. I remember when it was 250 square feet.
But it really wasn't.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. Let's pick a number and then let's put that in writing. So
But if we put a number somewhere,
Mhm.
then you're saying that they don't need a building permit. So they're not gonna call, and these things are gonna show up, and we're gonna be dealing with this again, honestly.
That's where I'm coming from. I mean, I understand you're wanting to put a minimum on it, but that would be a determination, we can put a number on it, fine. But everybody still needs to call in to the appraiser's office to find out if they need a building permit on it, no matter the size, because if it's in a floodplain, if it's on the property line, so on and so forth. That's the office is where,
Then let's state it differently.
okay?
State it that anything under whatever that number is does not require a building permit, but you must call in to verify the location where this permanent structure will go. Or
Permanent or portable structure.
portable structure will go. Why? Because it could be in a floodplain. Why? Because it could be too close to your neighbor, encroaching on your neighbor. Oh, okay.
But if I'm gonna put it right beside my house, and I know that it's not in a floodplain and it's not next to my neighbor, why would I call him?
There's some houses that are in the floodplain,
Why, I understand
and
that,
they
but
were built in the floodplain prior to,
okay.
so that's not necessarily the case either. I mean, there's
There's
plenty of
always
variables,
something.
yeah.
There's always something that's gonna, there's no right answer there.
So I'm probably not gonna, if I build a doghouse and set that by the tree,
It's my
I'm
concept.
probably not gonna call.
Well, there's a height, so like, if you didn't do a height
Well,
thing,
there's a height on the value part of it.
Yeah.
But with that doghouse,
yeah,
permit,
And it does, it becomes comical to a certain extent, and so,
there is information on FEMA's site about if something can be moved quickly, if the flood waters are rising, you know, there is that.
I think we have two different heights in here. I think in one place it says 35 feet, and in another place it says
Yeah, I think it depends on the zoning, the
45 feet.
I think there's height regulations for anything.
Yeah.
B2, B3,
District,
B4,
yeah.
I1, they're all
I
have
was
height
thinking
regulations.
like a 3 foot tall structure, we're not gonna think of, like a pump cover, or, we don't pick those up.
or somebody's playhouse. That's, you know, a little thing.
I have one of those in a tree.
We're not going to value that.
Tree houses, and it's probably pushing 350 square feet. Is it taxable? A tree house?
Treehouse, is it actually built into the tree, or is it?
Absolutely. It's a permanent fixture.
So Captain's got
That
a
would
nice
be,
little playhouse out there.
Sort of miscellaneous structure, does it have plumbing and all that in it?
It's got a whole house and a house window.
I mean, there are those now.
I guess. But it's those kind of things that most people don't need to go. So I think if we can narrow in on one thing, everybody just needs to call in or come in and have at least initiate a conversation with you guys about construction on their property. At least to just find out what is the next step, right? You'll be able to help them with what that next step is. Maybe it's as simple as, finding out that, oh, you have revitalization, I can get a tax break for 5 years. Wow, I didn't know that. Those are the things that I wish, because we put those in place to encourage people to build homes. But there's this myth out there that if they look into revitalization, we're going to know exactly what they spent on that house. Therefore, they're going to tax me for that. We're going to value it. You're going to value that based on square footage, like items, right?
So, yes, it's all about replacement cost new too, and then the depreciation on that, and the cost tables. So that's a whole nother thing.
So if I build something, I'm going to use an example. If I build something for $32,000, and I can prove to you that's what I spent on it, how do you value it higher than that?
How does it come out higher than that?
Yeah.
Based on square footage and Marshall and Swift cost tables?
Well, so, and that's kind of a fallacy too, because if you take the factor that you purchase something for, what'd you say, $36,000, you purchase raw lumber, you purchase raw cement blocks, you purchase paint, you purchase this, you purchase that. You throw it there in a pile, it's worth $36,000. But once you construct that into a livable space, it's worth a whole heck of a lot more.
Are you gonna turn around and sell it for 36? That's where it implies too, that.
It does.
So, and that's one of the things that I think is a common mistake people make is they say, well, I want material and I paid $36,000.
We just had this conversation a little while ago. So, I mean.
But you ask somebody if they're going to pay, if they would be willing to take, if I wrote them a check right now, what their building is valued for, heck no, I'm not. It's worth twice that.
Not when they're talking about.
So if you're saying it's worth twice that, you wouldn't take what it's valued at. I just don't get it. I wouldn't take what you got my house valued for. Absolutely no way.
So it's complicated.
It is. And that's, like I say, this is something we're not going to solve today. I want to start the conversation today to see if we can come up with some ideas. We can come up with some ideas as far as, do we need to put a square footage on it, blah, blah, blah. But the key thing keeps coming back down to call the appraiser's office and ask the questions. Do I need a building permit? I'm going to put it here. What do I got to do? It's just that simple. I don't know where else to go on it. Find another question?
Oh, I've got 17 of them.
Okay.
I mean, parking. There's a whole page here just on parking. Elementary, junior high, utility,
What part of the zoning regulations are in?
Page 76 under zoning regs, page 76.
I don't know. I think maybe some of the parking too may have to do with capacity.
Yes, I
In the
believe
building,
that's
fire marshal kind of thing, and there needs to be so many parking spots, and this is how many people can be in this building, and I'm not sure that that's not tied to that.
Yeah.
I think
That's why the Gator parking lot has like 40 handicap spaces. There's no way you're gonna have 40 handicapped people working there at the same time at the plant. So, and that is due to regulations. You have to have, for every person in the building, you have to have this many handicap spaces. So,
There are some things in here as I was digging into it too, the floodplain overlay.
Okay.
Where's that at?
I'm trying to find it. Okay, so Article 9, page 25. So this is where it's talking about the areas that would be in the floodplain, would be in this floodplain district, this overlay. And I see that we need to make a correction because down towards the bottom of the page, it has the Jackson County Resolution number 2000-27. It is actually, the newest one is 2010-14.
And there's gonna be a newer one next year.
There should be a newer one, so there's gonna be a new flood map. And I think you all got the Excel spreadsheet on what properties are going out,
Yep.
what's coming in.
There's a lot more going in than going out.
Yes, there are a lot more buildings that they found too. That was on my list of to-dos when I had time, is to go through the floodplain and try and find all of those buildings. They have done it for us. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing at this point, but we now have a start
Mm-hmm.
to that.
Now, so, okay, so let me ask you a question on that. So if some of these buildings have been in there for 40 years, because they're expanding some of the floodplains, right?
Yeah.
So if they've been in there for 40 years, they're grandfathered in. There's nothing they can do about this, correct?
I would assume so,
Okay.
yes.
It'd be an issue if they added to that building. Right?
Yes.
If
Yeah.
they added to it or changed that building because they would have to conform to today's standards.
You mean from if it just got added into the floodplain in the upcoming next year's version?
Yeah.
So, yeah, then he couldn't add on to it from then on, correct? But
They can, they just have the entire structure has to come up to compliance in the floodplain.
Yeah.
Like the requirements for the wet floodproofing, the openings and all of that, so.
But
it's-
somebody built a low feed shed, next, correct, 40 years ago.
Right,
So
I
they
would
just
tell
get
that
on.
person, this is grandfathered in, if you add on to that structure, then you're gonna have to bring it up to
Bring it up,
compliance.
Okay,
Or raise it, or.
yeah, yeah.
Or just do a little separate building and make that part of
Right.
compliance.
Yep.
instead.
So that, those are the conversations that we would have with people when they call in. About getting a permit on an ag building. So,
And I was curious, I guess this question in one of the meetings, I don't remember if you're here or not, who actually, does the state actually notify these people that their properties is now in the floodplain? Do you have to go through and do that?
it's gonna be our office that has to do that.
Okay.
Right, but then it goes to like the one in Western Jackson County right now, then the state gets involved and they're the ones that make that determination. They're the ones that are sending out the letter to them, we're not enforcing it.
You're talking
Yeah.
about that one? No, we have to.
We have to?
It's up for a meeting this week.
Yeah. So I sent out my
What did the
determination.
state do?
Their part on that would be the fill.
They're just determining that the concrete wasn't high enough and that it needed to be raised over the flood.
Right. So their permitting is for the fill to bring it up to the correct elevation, right? So they issue those permits and they work with that landowner and the surveyor on a fill plan for that dirt road. And then we get that permit and that shows that they got the proper permit through the state for the fill and that they are up to that elevation. So they get an elevation certificate survey initially, like this is our base, this is where we're starting from, and then they get another elevation certificate after that fill is done. So we have that certification that they are now at a foot above base flood elevation. And then we issue our floodplain permit, then we can issue our building permit. Because they've done all the things.
Okay.
So I'm gonna ask a question, because I got an email. Because generally speaking, case law, the statute in Kansas do not support a requirement for someone engaged in agriculture to to obtain a permit to build any building structure, there is potentially an argument regarding floodplain qualifying EPA. There's a pretty good argument for that. Let's keep it simple and not change this. If the appraiser's office would like to request that farmers of Jackson County notify them of new structures after the completion by phone call or email by the end of the year, at the end of the tax year, then this should be sufficient. But I think you've answered that question, that it's too late if they build within a floodplain or they built too close to somebody, correct? And they don't state any case law, so I don't know what case law they would be talking about.
I don't know. Possibly, is it the one that I replied to when I sent email?
So, it again boils back to just making contact with your office.
Before anything started.
Yeah, and at least initiating that conversation.
It allows us to check just to make sure that they're good to go. They fill out their stuff, so we have that paperwork trail, right? It's attached to that property.
And you're trying to protect them as much as anybody else, so who's the applicant for the building?
The one that built, I mean, I can imagine that there's a lot of money that went into the concrete work for that.
Mhm.
For sure.
When that parcel was split, we had sent out a letter to them saying that this was, these parcels are now non-compliant because there was a split and it doesn't meet the requirements for that split. So, okay, they split it, which means they wouldn't be issued a building permit for it, for residential structures. Well, that is not a residential structure, but had he called and talked to us about the initial, you once split this property, and it didn't meet requirements. But if he had called, we would have gotten him in line with the state for his bill, rolled it up. Or if he wanted to wet floodproof it and get the variance beforehand, we could have worked with him on that too, but now it's in.
Right, you would have had the opportunity to bring Filbert in, build it up flood above,
Right.
and then build the structure.
Or wet floodproofing and those options, I mean, the whole thing. There would have been options instead of now we're just trying to figure out how we make this work, or now we have to tear it down. I mean, it's complicated when it could have been a simple step.
Yeah, there you go. All right, now you're down to 15. All right, so I think what we need to do is we need to keep looking at this, keep working on this. We'll talk amongst ourselves too, and I think probably the thing to do is start just Article 1 and just start going through and see what we see, and get questions. We think changes. Give you guys
The whole 3 acre thing, though, I would like to try to simplify that in some fashion. I know that we sent that over to zoning and planning a year and a half ago, and people raised Cain about that because they didn't want somebody to build next to it.
Well, if they've got 20 acres or 40 acres or 160 acres, and they don't want to be building that, don't sell them anymore.
Well, but maybe we look at it where I believe in parts of this county, there are real opportunity for growth around an incorporated city. Point, Nevada possibly. So we narrow that down and we say, okay, let's grant a mile outside the bounds of the incorporated city limits. Anything within that, if you have 250 foot of road frontage and 3 acres, you can sell it off to build a house. Nobody likes to pay property taxes, but every time you try to come up with a way to generate more revenue by encouraging people to build here or whatever that may be, it gets shot down. So, you know, when people are building quality homes, that helps divide the piece of the pie over a larger area. So is that something that we can take a look at? I mean, Shawnee County does it right across the line. They're building like crazy.
Well, that's what they're gonna talk about in the work session.
So maybe your time would be better served looking through the comprehensive plan first and have a work session on the 19th and providing them things maybe you think, like,
Sure.
because you could get them guidance or whatever, right?
What's your thoughts?
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah, and I think I will.
You could provide something.
I mean-
else.
We were talking about procedure earlier and how we do things. So our 17%, or if we go out on the sale, so there are reasons that we're on people's properties. So it could be the 17% of the 1/6 of the county that we have to visit every year.
Right.
There's also a sale. If a property sells, then we'll go out to make sure everything's listed correctly, because that is the basis for our analysis, right? Is valid sales and making sure that everything is listed correctly as of that sale date. Right? So the sale is really super important too. Why would we would be going out on that? So on this pink card here, those are the cards that we leave at the front door. Sometimes the back door, sometimes it's hard to tell, which they
There's
use.
a requirement in there for the front door and back door.
Whichever one I think that they use, most of the time it's gonna be the front door, they don't need that. We'll pull up, we always try and make sure that our vehicle is seen, especially with the logo, the county logo. We wear our vests, we have our badges on, so we'll approach the front door.
ID, not official.
No, our ID, our county ID badge. We'll ring the door if they have like a ring doorbell or something that we can actually talk to them through
Yeah.
it. That's great. A lot of the time, like, this is relatively new within the last year or so that we've been doing this, that we have the whole spiel that we give people, like, hi, my name is so-and-so, I'm with the county, the state requires us to visit the property every 6 years, yada, 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 and it goes on.
Right.
We will try and leave that, if it's a ring doorbell or something like that, we don't answer the door, we'll try and give them that spiel through the doorbell thing if we can. And then the other person will be filling that card out as the other person is talking. And it's always, if we have 30 seconds, we just have a couple questions, just to make sure we have everything listed correctly. Then we go over the property record card, which are the sheets that has all the information on those properties on it. We'll go over all those details. Or if they're not home, we'll leave this, which is essentially all the information that we would be asking them in person. And we would leave it. Now, when we were hanging them on the doorknobs, the wind would constantly rip them off and send them out to somebody's field. So we started, if they have like a screen door or a storm door, we'll just crack it and slip it in there and latch it so it holds it securely. So we always try to do that so it's secure. If we have sent out pink sheets, so if they are in the area of the county that we're visiting, so now we send out the obnoxious bright pink sheets in with a valuation notice that we send out at the end of February. So their valuation notice that they get first part of March, the first week of March, they're going to have those pink sheets in there saying, hey, we're going to visit your property this year. We're just going to verify that we have this information listed correctly and get updated pictures.
And it's a
So,
page. Page.
yeah, full page sheet right there in front. And if we got that pink sheet back, a lot of the times we do before we actually go out onto the properties, we will leave the green one saying we were here and we inspected the property on this date, and we'll do the same thing. We'll go to the door, introduce ourselves, let them know that we're there, And if they're not, we'll leave this green sheet saying that we thank you for returning your pink sheet, and we'll leave that one. If it is a building permit, which their building permit, if they actually came in and got their building permit, they are saying they are aware that we're gonna be out in the fall, because that's typical. We'll go out September, after we're done with 17%, and we'll visit the properties for the building permits at that point. New construction, we do first. New construction means new houses or new additions to houses. We'll visit those first, because we'll have to revisit them again by the end of the year. So we'll do that, and then we'll do all the ag buildings, garages, sheds, everything else that's after that. When we visit the building permits, if we don't get to talk to them, we'll leave that orange card. Same thing, in the door, if there's a residence there. If there's not, and it's just an ag building on 80 acres, then we're just gonna go measure it and take pictures of it, and we're out of there. So it's always, when it's a residence, we'll take a picture of the front of the house and the back of the house. And then we'll take a picture of the garage, residential shed, and all the ag buildings. And we'll have those listed on the parcel. We see them, and helps me determine the condition of the property, the buildings. If there's some deterioration, I can nip that. So us being out there isn't always a bad thing, because some buildings fall down, right? And we'll note that and take it off the parcel. They may not realize that they have to call us to let us know that that building fell down. So we'll make note of that on the 17% and take it off. So that is the standard procedure. Are there any questions or concerns about that?
I don't have any. Nope. Well, I think we got a lot of work to do. So,
Yeah.
we'll probably try to pick you guys' brain quite a bit, so. We'll go from there, all right?
Okay.
Thank you, appreciate it.